our plan is our plan, right? And other distributors may have their own plan, the way that they're doing.
That is correct. I think what our approach on this is going to, when it's all said and done, will be very similar to what other distributors are doing. Where you might find a distinction is, and maybe surprisingly so, at least at the outset, what we viewed maybe as the most important change we're making on this purchase power adjustment. Many distributors are not doing that, at least at the outset. I think that they will quickly learn that that's something that they need to do.
And part of the reason for that is we're unique because we have a gas system and we've done this in our gas system for years, so we understand it, and some utilities have never had to deal with that, and that's a unique new step for them, so they may be a little behind the curve.
Other questions, Tom?
This is off base a little bit, but I'm just kind of curious, because I mean, the whole starting point for this is that TVA's generation capacity isn't sufficient to service its peak demand. And I remember sometime in the last year, 2 or 3, that TVA was either implementing a program or trying to implement a program or making some requests about individual distributors participating in the financing of new generation. Well, whatever became of that? Nothing. Okay. I'm just curious.
I think when the financial markets,
No.
when the financial markets had their upheaval in the last 18 months, it's a financial instrument. It's a challenge.
And I know it's not our doing, but I mean,
Yeah.
and I understand and appreciate the need to manage the consumption of power, but I mean, at some point, you take into account residential growth and economic growth and commercial growth and manufacturing, and at some point.
Well, they have a debt limit that limits their ability to build a lot of new generation.
Right.
So
And
that's
they're
their
also
balance.
wanting to become, over time, less reliant on fossil fuels. So they don't want to build necessarily new coal.
Have we thought about, or has TVA thought about further marketing to the ratepayers, an opportunity to say, there's another reason why, turn your thermostat down or anything else, or we're going to do anything special after this for that purpose?
You actually, I think, mentioned that a few weeks ago at the last board meeting, and we do want to increase our emphasis on conservation and managing the bills. We do a lot of that right now.
I know.
But
I'm not sure there is any more opportunity.
the theory is that once it hits people's pocketbooks, that's when they'll pay attention, but we're a long way from it really having an impact on their pocketbooks.
I think Nellie may have the answer to that.
That is the way of the future.
It just, we're bombarded already, just trying to figure out if there's any more angle you can put to the story. Okay, more questions? We need a motion and a second. There's 2 different resolutions, but we handle them separately.
I move for approval of resolution 1239.
Second.
Motion and second. Any comment, public comments? Mr. Coley?
Commissioner Anderson? Commissioner Cannell? Commissioner Jones?
Aye.
Commissioner Robinson?
Aye.
Commissioner Simmons? Mr. Thompson? Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Resolution 1239 is passed on first reading.
We'll move right to resolution 1240, and thank you for reminding me, we will have a second reading at the next board meeting. Resolution 1240, we need a motion.
Is there a separate presentation?
No, yeah, no, go ahead. Second.
It wasn't a second presentation.
No. My mistake.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Comments, questions? Mr. Colby?
Commissioner Anderson? Commissioner Cannell? Commissioner Jones?
Aye.
Commissioner Robinson?
Aye.
Mr. Simmons? Mr. Thompson? Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Resolution 1240 has passed on first reading.
Okay, I'd like to thank the staff for definitely guiding us through a very difficult, confusing, hard to understand situation. I think we got a pretty good handle on it. I wish you the best of luck in implementing.
Thanks a lot.
Changes. I guess we're ready for a practice.
Yeah, the meeting has got a little bit long today, but we do have two presence reports, if we can do those kind of briefly. One is about smart grid, and Mark will update you on that.
Commissioners, last August, we gave you a rather detailed presentation on our smart grid pilot project. Today, I just want to bring you up to date on where we are, and because we are getting very close to actual implementation and beginning to install smart metering equipment in our project area. And we do have a communications plan we just briefly want to review with you as well. But just as a quick reminder to the commissioners, that really the pilot area is concentrated on the University of Tennessee and Fort Sanders and some surrounding areas to that. We'll be actually doing a number of installations here in the next probably month, beginning of the next month as well. But this is the area we're concentrating on. And why did we select this area? Well, a couple of reasons. One, it has a high density of customers. It's got a good mix of residential and commercial customers, actually, and also the location at the University of Tennessee. We'll be installing a number of smart meters with UT. They're very interested in energy and water efficiency and usage on the campus, so that'll help them in that regard. And also, very importantly, the Department of Electrical Engineering at UT is really partnered with us. They're going to help us analyze the results of a lot of data that'll come out of the various smart grid technologies we'll employ over the next couple of years. And really, the whole purpose of the pilot, if you'll recall, was for KUB to gain experience with some of the various technologies out there, from the metering to the communications infrastructure to the distribution automation side of things, so we can begin to learn in the event that this may eventually spread across the entire system. Real quickly, also, the key components. We'll deploy actually 6,000 smart meters over the term of the project. Most of those will be in the UT Fort Sanders area. And I will point out that for really the actual, as far as new meters that we'll be installing, that's limited to the electric. For the gas and water, which is also a portion of this, we'll be able to use existing meters. We'll just have to install a communication device on that. That is something that's probably new since we talked to the board last August, and that'll help us save a few dollars over the life of the project as well. But we can use our existing meters on gas and water. The AMI communications infrastructure, initially we want to put that just so it provides coverage for the project area. That's a fancy name. What it actually means is we'll have antennas on some existing KUB structures or potentially third-party structures when we go system-wide with that. Those antennas will have a fiber optic cable that goes down to a server, and that server will basically enable a communication between a meter and KUB's business systems, and then we can go back and forth. It's two-way communication capabilities with that system. So obviously that's an important part of it. Distribution substation automation, another important part. We're looking at being able to employ or deploy certain types of equipment on our distribution system in our substations that will now enable us to maybe better control voltage, better pinpoint outages, and basically reduce system losses, reduce outage times. So again, we're going to be experimenting with that also in the project area. Those are some of the main components. Oops. Where are we today? Well, last month we actually finalized our contract with Census Metering Systems. They were the vendor we selected from a competitive bid process for the AMI equipment. That was executed in January. So off of that, we have now ordered our smart meters for the initial phase of the pilot, what will go into the UT Fort Sanders area, and we expect those to be delivered to KUB in early March. Just a few weeks after that, we will begin deployment or installation in the UT Fort Sanders area. We'll be using KUB labor for that, our meter services folks, and in total about 5,200 of the 6,000. And again, part of that is meter exchange with electric, but part of it's just a communication device on approximately 2,000 gas and water meters. The antennas and servers for the communication infrastructure will be in place by mid-March. And then we'll also begin sometime in April the installation of our extension of fiber optic cable between all the substations in the area. And it's through that fiber optic that we can have remote control basically from our power operations center down on Middleburg Pike. So that's the plan really for the month of March and April. Our key is we're focusing on April 30th to have basically all the infrastructure and meters and communication devices installed by that point in time. And we hope by early summer, then we won't have to send meter readers out to that area anymore, and we'll be able to get everything remotely, and then we'll start billing off the remote reads probably sometime this summer. So we're excited about that. Anytime there's a new project like this, we do have a communications plan. We do want to provide the impacted customers and the area with as much advance notification as possible. So in late this month, we will be contacting city officials, neighborhood groups, letting them know about the project. KUB employees are going to be in the area doing meter installation work during the months of March and April, and basically what the whole purpose of the pilot is. Late February, we'll also send a notification letter to all the impacted customers, again, letting them know about the purpose of the project. Also giving them a contact name and phone number for KUB in case they have any questions about the project at all that they can call beforehand. For residential customers, on the date the technician goes out to make the actual exchange or installation, they will go and knock on the door and see if anybody's at home. Part of the reason for that is in the event that you're doing an electric meter exchange at that site, there would be a very brief interruption of power as that meter is exchanged. And we want to make sure no one's at home working on a computer program or something like that, and and they have no knowledge that we were there doing that. So that's part of the purpose for that. In the event that no one is home, when we do that door knock, if the meter is accessible, we're going to go ahead and make the exchange or install the communications device. If the meter is not accessible, we'll come back and call the customer and set up a scheduled time. For our commercial industrial customers, our customer support folks will be contacting them 3 days before. In addition to the letter they'll get at the end of this month, we'll do a personal phone call with them to make sure they're aware of what date, specific date, that the technicians will be coming. And then for apartment managers, since it's a little bit more complex there, we need to give them a little bit more advance notice outside of just the letter, because they need to know to be able to notify their tenants, and we may have to set up some special procedures to access all those meters. So that's the communications plan. I guess bottom line is we're excited about this. We've been talking about it for a long time, and contract negotiations took several months, but now we're close to ready to roll on it and begin to actually get some good experience.
What do we do with those old meters?
They're old.
Are they old, so they go
Salvage.
Refresh my memory, I mean, I understand the long-term savings, but in terms of just the financial cost of implementing this pilot program, what's the approximate total cost, and also aren't we getting some of that through federal grants?
Good question. The total estimated cost of the pilot is about 7.7 million. Approximately 50% of that would be funded by DOE, Smart Grid Grant we got from DOE. Not quite 50%, because DOE isn't going to fund 50% of the water and gas portion. All right. To date, we've received $113,000 from DOE for reimbursement expenses so far, and that's been primarily consulting on contract negotiation and strategy and other matters, and also our own labor expense involved.
Is any of that expense, if down the road, if TPA will do what we just did for the homeowner, to where I can, if I decide I can reduce my peak usage during, I'm not gonna dry close when it's 90 degrees, and if I had this meter on my house, is some of the infrastructure we're putting in, would it be relevant to my meter out in West Knoxville? Or are we going to have to, if we're going to expand that to $7.7 million, is there any residual from that?
Part of the 7.7 million, the actual communications infrastructure, that's going to be system-wide. Okay. So let's say, for example, once all that infrastructure is up, which will be sooner than later as part of the 3-year pilot, we then could go out and stick a smart meter on your house and be able to access.
And the actual meter, what was the cost of just the meter, the installation of the new meter? Do we have that broken down to that?
We do. The meter itself, it's not, depending upon your perspective, it's not overly expensive with the technology and the communication device already embedded in the electric. It's probably $200.
And didn't we talk about that it would go in and then you could access that back on your, you could see just on a real-time basis what your usage was?
Yes, and in particular, part of this pilot, if we're going to give out home area network devices for a certain population of the customers, and through those communicate with the meter as well, so you could see at any point in time in your house, what's my level of usage, what's my level of usage. So you could go and turn off all your lights, turn off all your appliances, and you could see it stop. You don't have to go out and look at your meter. It's actually real time there in your house. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so, I talked to you about sometimes these smart meters don't work. So we're gonna send people out intermittently to make sure that these meters are working correctly.
And actually, the way it's set up, because of the two-way communication system, we will know right away, for example, if the meter's been tampered with. There's an alarm, a trigger that we would see on that. If we're not getting a read, that would give us an immediate signal that something may be wrong with that meter. And then we have all sorts of programs that we can run high, low to say, hey, is there a problem with that meter just registering the usage? So actually, it allows us to probably catch things, respond a lot more quickly than we can today.
Did you say, I know you talked about people being notified ahead of time about the power stoppage when you switch these meters. For residential, you're knocking on the door, but are you sending a card or letter ahead of time too?
Yes, we're sending a letter at the end of this month to all customers that would be impacted, residential, commercial, everybody.
And do we consider the customer, I think I asked this last time, I can't remember the answer, the owner of the property or the person who's actually paying the bill?
The customer
Sanders.
who's paying the bill.
It's who we have on our account and who's good for that bill.
And whose name the utility services.
Right.
That's correct.
Which, in Fort Sanders, a lot of times won't be the owner of the property.
That's correct.
And so are we notifying owners of the property that come down?
It's irrelevant to them. We own the meters, so it's